This is Antonio Ferreira. He's the Chief Information Officer and the Chief Information Security Officer at the National Energy Technology Laboratory.
My job is to make sure that everything from the cell phones to the supercomputer work properly around here.
Antonio has done a lot of amazing things, like teach others how to create medicine that helps people with diseases.
I'm an adjunct professor at Duquesne University, and so over there I work with some graduate students in the area of drug design, mostly to help people who are addicted to opiates.
He also built his own computer to use during his college years.
There was a deal that the chemistry department made with me when I was a graduate student. They said, we need a little supercomputer for the department, and if you build it, it's yours until you graduate. And so, of course, that was an offer I couldn't refuse, and that was the first machine I built back in, 1998, I guess it was.
Antonio's interest and passion to learn how to build things all started in Mohawk, a town in upstate New York.
Right in the heart of dairy country up there, about 20 miles from the Baseball Hall of Fame, actually. My grandfather was a very technical person. He worked for Univac, which was the first company to ever build a commercial computer, even before IBM. That was what my grandfather did for a living. And he was a very technical kind of guy, and I just sort of always gravitated toward that.
Antonio started building things he wanted to learn more about as an elementary student in the Mohawk School District.
When I was in about 5th or 6th grade, I guess it was, I had a very, as a lot of boys do, I had interest in, military equipment, tanks and planes and all that sort of thing. And I remember reading about the development of the first radars during the Second World War. And, all right, what's radar? I have to send out a signal and get one back. So I went downstairs and grabbed my father's erector set, the old metal kind of it. And I built myself a reflector dish and an antenna and the whole bit. And my father came home just in time to stop me from hooking up the car battery to the cyclone fence and blowing myself up. And so at that point, he really decided that he needed to find me an outlet for this kind of curiosity.
Antonio says his high school chemistry and physics teacher taught him a valuable concept, that different kinds of sciences don't have to all be separate.
You don't have a box for chemistry and a box for physics and a box for geometry and algebra. He said, these are all just little pieces of a great big picture. And I think to me, coming up that way through high school, I really got an appreciation of the fact that, okay, if I learn something over here in chemistry, it might have an application over here in my physics class, and then the same thing with my math. And seeing those connections, I think, was very valuable. It's all connected together, and the more you see the connections, the more beautiful it becomes.
Antonio went to Syracuse University and earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics with a minor in chemistry. He then traveled south to attend the University of Memphis.
For me, it's always been about trying to understand the world around me, and it's the way I process the world. And I really found a home with mathematics, and even my PhD in theoretical chemistry is very mathematical. The thing I am most grateful to Syracuse University for was giving me the freedom to sort of explore what my intellectual interests were and find my own way through the world.
Antonio says he was described by one of his teachers as having greedy mind syndrome.
I had to just go know everything that there was to know, and I think that's a pretty apt description of me. I have a curiosity, and I think that in general scientists are people who, every 2-year-old asks why, and we just never stopped asking. I think that it's not necessarily that you go choose your science. I think in some ways it just kind of chooses you.
Nowadays, Antonio comes into his job at NETL and oversees all of NETL's information technology. That includes one of the world's fastest, most energy-efficient supercomputers, which researchers use for large-scale research, down to laptop computers, working email, and cell phones.
As an executive, my days are filled with lots of meetings, but the really exciting thing about the meetings I have every day is that they span the gamut from, how do we protect ourselves from cybersecurity threats, somebody trying to hack in and steal information about power plants, to, how do we build this supercomputer, where do we build it, what kind of, all the way down to, in some cases, which processor do we want to use?
For Antonio, computing is an enabling technology. It allows us to ask scientific questions that we couldn't otherwise ask.
making sure that environment is capable of supporting the kind of questions that our scientists and engineers want to ask is really, that's what drives me the most. The really exciting part is being able to go to a researcher and say, you know, we're going to give you the ability to change the kind of question that you can ask and ask new questions and get new insights. We're a national lab, and our job is to do the things that can't get done anywhere else. You know, we have resources and people and other capabilities you can't duplicate outside the national lab environment. And so getting to be right on that cutting edge and help people do things that can't be done anywhere else is really very exciting.
Antonio says that pursuing a STEM education is hard, but that's what makes it great.
As my father said when I got my PhD, that was a study in perseverance, and it does. It takes a long time. If I could tell myself or any other kid that age, I'd say don't get discouraged. It is tough. The amount of study that you have to do, and if you think math is hard in middle school, it's going to get much harder. But that doesn't mean it's not beautiful in the end. And this is fun. And you look at the people who do science, they're some of the brightest people on the planet, and they wouldn't go do something that wasn't fun.
Antonio says the most successful people that he's ever met have been the ones that go out and do what they love. If you're passionate about what you do, you'll be a success. So, what are you passionate about? What will you do?